What is the spiritual dream meaning of an ambulance?
You know, what if the moment you almost died was the moment your soul finally started living? That's not just some abstract question. For the poet Sylvia Plath, that was literally her story. Picture this. She's 20 years old, a brilliant, visionary writer, and she crawls into the darkness under her family's house. She has a bottle of sleeping pills, swallows them, and the world just goes dark. She almost didn't make it back. And the ambulance that found her, look, it wasn't just a vehicle. It was a threshold. It was this razor's edge, the physical space between death and a second chance at life. Everything after that day, it was shaped by this moment. She went on to write The Bell Jar, a novel so raw, so real, she had to publish it under a fake name. She gave a voice to that silent, unseen emergency that so many of us feel. Her whole life became this living ambulance dream, just a constant, desperate back and forth between total collapse and sheer survival. And then, in 1963, the sirens came again for her. Only this time, they were too late. So let's bring this back to you. When you dream of an ambulance, when you hear that siren wailing through your sleep, you need to pay attention. This isn't just some random image your brain cooked up. No, this is your psyche making a 911 call. All right, your psyche's 911 call. And that means it's time for some pretty uncomfortable questions. And you need to answer them now. So, question 1. Is something in your life on the verge of total collapse? A job, a relationship, maybe your own sense of who you are? And are you, honestly, the last person to know about it? Okay, next. Have you been just waiting around for someone to come rescue you from a situation that you, and let's be real, only you have the power to change? And finally, let's get right to it. Are you the emergency? Or are you the one ignoring it? Okay, let's talk about the crisis vehicle and why this specific imagery is so urgent. You see, your mind doesn't pick these symbols by accident. An ambulance isn't a taxi. It's not a bus. It's a crisis vehicle. So let's break this down from a few psychological angles. The Jungians, they'd say a vehicle is your life's journey. An ambulance shows up only when that journey is at a breaking point. Simple as that. Relational theory, it says your inner emotional world has hit a tipping point, a key relationship, maybe your self-worth is in critical condition. And CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, well, that siren you're hearing is just the alarm clock your waking self has been hitting snooze on over and over and over again. Your mind is forcing the issue. And here's the thing we have to get our heads around. At some point, we are all both the patient and the paramedic in our own lives. We're the one in crisis, and we're also the one in denial, standing by, waiting for the right time to deal with whatever is slowly bleeding us out. That ambulance dream, that's what shatters the denial. The siren appears when your body knows something is wrong, long before your conscious mind is ready to admit it. It blares when a love affair has turned into a 5-alarm fire, when exhaustion has crossed over into actual danger. It screams when that version of you, the one held together by people-pleasing and apologies, is about to go into shock. So, an intervention, not a sentence. Remember, Sylvia Plath's ambulance came too late. Yours doesn't have to. This dream, it's not a sentence, it's an intervention. And let's be absolutely crystal clear on this. What you're experiencing is not a death sentence. It is an intervention. It is not some prophecy of doom. It is your chance to finally act. And it is not just a dream. It is a critical, flashing red lights warning. So I'm telling you, stop dismissing it. Stop trying to analyze it to death. Just start asking the only question that actually matters. What inside you is in critical condition? Right now, today, before those sirens fade away.
So you're dreaming of an ambulance. Let's get one thing straight. Your subconscious isn't sending you a friendly postcard. It is screaming a warning. And these aren't just random nightmares. No, these are very specific, very urgent signals about what's going on in your life right now.
So you need to listen up. We are going to break down the 6 most urgent calls your psyche is making. Think of this as the map of your own personal emergency.
All right, let's dive right into the first signal. This is that gut punch of a feeling, that feeling that no one is coming to help you.
So your psyche is screaming this in one of two ways, okay? Either you're dialing 911 and the line is just dead, your needs are being flat out ignored, or you're the one on the stretcher, totally passive, feeling like you've got zero control as life just happens to you. And here's the crucial point. Both of these dreams point to the exact same desperate need for intervention. Either other people are ignoring you, or, and this is key, you've started ignoring yourself by giving up your power to do anything about it.
And let's be really clear here. This is not about getting bitter. This is about boundary work. It's about stop calling the people who refuse to answer. And it's about finding one tiny way to stop being the passive body on the stretcher and get back in the damn driver's seat.
But what if you're not the one needing the rescue? What if in your dream, you're the one driving the ambulance?
Yeah, if this is your dream, you know exactly who you are. You're the caretaker. You're the fixer. You're the one everyone calls the second their life falls apart. You always run toward the fire.
But here is the reframe you absolutely need to hear. You might think this role makes you some kind of hero, right? But your subconscious, it knows the truth. This dream is a blaring warning siren telling you that this constant state of rescue is completely unsustainable. It is burning you out.
The work here is, well, it's radical and it's necessary. You have to stop carrying burdens that are not yours to carry. I know it feels meaningful, but it is slowly destroying you. It's time to learn how to hand that problem back to its rightful owner.
Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the kind of crisis that nobody else can see, the emergency that you're hiding in plain sight.
This one shows up in two distinct ways. First, you see an ambulance, and you feel nothing. You've become so numb, so completely dissociated from your own crisis, that you've literally forgotten how to even feel it. The second way, you dream of an ambulance with its lights flashing, but no siren. This means you're in deep distress, but you are performing "I'm okay" so masterfully that nobody even knows you need help.
So the action here is simple. You have to break the silence. First, with yourself. Sit down and ask, what am I avoiding feeling? Then you go to one person you trust. Turn the siren on, just for a second, and see what happens.
All right, but what happens when the help you are desperately counting on is the very thing that breaks down on the way? Oh, this one stays with you. The ambulance arriving, but it's just too late. This dream points directly to unprocessed grief for something you couldn't save. A relationship, a job, maybe even a version of yourself. You are stuck replaying the exact moment the rescue failed.
And this is about two distinct but related crises. You're either carrying the heavy weight of that past loss, or the support systems that are supposed to be holding you up right now, your therapist, your friends, your own coping skills, are themselves completely collapsing.
So the work here is twofold. You have to do two things at once. First, you have to face the past. Write it down. Acknowledge what that loss really cost you. And at the same time, you have to fortify your present. You need to audit your support network and find the weak spots before they fail you when you need them most.
Okay, next up, let's talk about the signal for total, absolute, system-wide overwhelm.
You know this one. If you're dreaming of multiple ambulances, like a scene of some mass emergency, this isn't a metaphor. This is a direct, literal translation of your nervous system's current state. It means you have taken on way too much. Everything feels like it's breaking down all at once.
And pay attention to this detail. If a child is in one of those ambulances, whoa. That's your psyche being brutally specific. It means your inner child, the youngest, most vulnerable part of you, is in crisis. Something happening right now is ripping open a very, very old wound.
This situation calls for pure survival intelligence. You can't treat every wound at the same time. You have to triage your current life. What is critical? What's serious? What can wait? And then you have to name your past. You can't break a pattern until you can see it with total clarity.
And finally, we come to the most profound and honestly the most overlooked variation of this entire dream. What if you dream of an ambulance and you feel relief? That's it. That is the secret. It means a part of you is desperately, desperately wanting to be rescued, to be seen, to finally be cared for. And here's the truth. Your worthiness of care is not contingent on your strength. This is not weakness. This is a fundamental human need that you have probably shamed yourself out of ever admitting. So the question your dream is leaving you with is simple. You've heard the siren in your own soul. The question is, will you finally answer the call?
Part 3. So, you got the message. Great. But you know what? Insight without action, it's totally useless. And let's be real, things aren't just going to calm down on their own. That's the whole point of the dream, right? The emergency. So, the bottom line is, you have to do something right now.
Okay, first up, we're talking about an internal system reboot. These prescriptions are all about one thing and one thing only: rebooting your own core programming so you can finally start hearing your own signals again. Learning to hear that whisper before it turns into a full-blown siren.
All right, for all you overthinkers out there, this one's for you. If you're someone who intellectualizes everything, I need you to just stop. This little protocol, it's designed to completely bypass that analytical brain of yours. So, first thing in the morning, before you even think about touching your phone, put both hands right on your chest. And you're gonna ask your body, not your brain, where is the tension? And whatever the answer is, just breathe into that one spot for a full 60 seconds. That's it. Simple.
And listen, this is not some gentle, feel-good suggestion. Your body has been sending you signals loud and clear that you've been systematically overriding for years. This one tiny action, it's how you start undoing all that damage. And you start today.
Okay, what about you creative, emotionally expressive types? Yeah, I'm talking to you. The ones who feel everything so deeply, but you don't actually process any of it. You just let it all get jammed up inside. Well, it is time to grieve, but with intention.
So here's what you're gonna do. You are going to write a letter. Could be to a person, a situation, a job, maybe even a version of yourself you had to leave behind. And get this straight, this letter isn't for them, it's for you. So you write it, you date it, you seal it up, and then you put it somewhere you have to look at it every single day for 1 week. Let it just sit there, a physical witness to all those things you haven't said. And then you release it, burn it, bury it, whatever you need to do to finally sever that tie.
And let's be crystal clear about this. This is not optional self-care. This isn't a bubble bath. Grief that isn't processed becomes physical illness. It becomes emotional shutdown. It becomes those recurring ambulance dreams. This is survival, period.
For those of you who feel spiritually connected, look, your dreams are talking to you. The problem is, you're not talking back. Well, that changes now. The second you wake up, I want you to grab a pen and write down any little fragment of a dream you can remember. Anything. Then you ask yourself 2 simple questions. What in my waking life does this mirror? And what's the loving action I can take today? And you write down the very first thing that pops into your head. No filtering, no judging. This is how you turn a random, confusing warning into a specific, actionable instruction.
See, your inner wisdom isn't the problem here. It's working perfectly fine. It's screaming at you. The only real question is whether you're finally willing to listen, and more importantly, to actually act on what it's telling you.
All right, let's shift gears. We've talked about the internal stuff. Now we have to look outward. Because your internal system, as important as it is, doesn't operate in a vacuum, right? It's time for an external infrastructure audit. We're going to find the structural failures before they collapse and take everything down with them.
This one is for my people pleasers. And let me just say it, you are not fine. You're too busy managing everyone else's life at the direct expense of your own. So here's your new Sunday ritual. You're going to conduct a boundary audit. List out every single request that was made of you that week. Then you circle every single time you said yes when every fiber of your being was screaming no. And for each one of those, you're going to write down the sentence you could have said instead. Look, we're not trying to fix the past here. We're building the vocabulary for your future.
I want you to think about it like this. Every single one of those false yeses is a withdrawal from your emotional bank account. And guess what? You are seriously overdrawn. We're talking emotional bankruptcy here. This audit, this is step 1 of your recovery plan.
Now for you analytical, logical people, the ones who need structure to even begin to engage with emotions, let's use that strength. I want you to make a simple spreadsheet. Seriously, column A, every single source of support in your life. People, habits, therapy, you name it. Column B, you're going to rate its reliability on a scale of 1 to 5. This isn't about feelings, okay? This is about cold, hard data.
You would never, ever build a house on a crumbling foundation, would you? So why are you doing it with your life? Any support system that you rate a 3 or below, that's a structural failure. It's a weak point. This audit is like an engineering report that shows you exactly where the cracks are before the whole thing comes crashing down. All right, relationship-focused people. You know,
You know exactly which conversation you've been avoiding. Don't even pretend you don't. Well, this week, guess what? You're having it. And here's the script. It's direct, it's clear, it is not softened for anyone's comfort. No more apologizing for having needs. You are flagging an emergency before it explodes into a full-blown catastrophe.
Look, the stakes here are brutally simple. Having this conversation, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for what, a few minutes? But not having it, that's going to cost you the relationship. Or maybe even worse, it's going to cost you yourself. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Okay, last section. Let's talk emergency triage. Because when you are completely and totally overwhelmed, you lose the ability to tell what's actually important. Everything feels like an emergency. So these next protocols, they're all about making immediate, decisive choices about where your precious energy goes this week. If you are exhausted, truly running on fumes, and you're trying to pass that off as strength, you need to listen up. This week, find one thing on your calendar that you are only doing out of obligation, and you're going to cancel it. Did you hear me? Not reschedule, cancel. And that time you get back, it's for rest. Unstructured, do-nothing rest. No goals, no productivity, just stop. This isn't about being lazy. This is medicine. The level of chronic exhaustion that triggers these kinds of ambulance dreams is a direct precursor to getting physically sick. I want you to think of this cancellation as a non-negotiable medical intervention prescribed by your own body. For anyone who's in a big transition right now, I get it. Everything feels like a 5-alarm fire. But here's the truth. It isn't. You need to use this grid. Take every single demand, every worry, everything on your plate, and place it into its proper box. And for this week, your energy only goes to that top left box, urgent and important. That's it. Everything else can either wait, be delegated, or just get deleted. This is how you get your ability to triage back online. And what if your inner critic is the one screaming that you are the emergency? Well, you have to fight back, and you fight back with facts. So every single night before bed, write down 3 things you handled that day. Not perfectly, not brilliantly, just handled. Things you got through. Then, read that list back to yourself out loud. This isn't some fluffy affirmation crap. This is you collecting hard evidence for your own defense. Because when you let that self-doubt run wild and unchallenged, it literally metastasizes into active self-sabotage. This little daily record, that is your official counter-testimony in the case your own mind is trying to build against you. And that trial is happening right now. So you'd better start your defense tonight. Let's boil it all down. Your psyche is sending out sirens for one reason and one reason only, because you've been ignoring the whispers. Every single one of these protocols, every prescription we've talked about, it's just a tool designed to retrain your ear to help you finally hear those quiet signals before they're forced to scream for your attention. So the message is clear. The prescriptions have been written. The only question left on the table is for you. What whisper are you finally going to listen to tomorrow?